My name is Julia Morrison, and this is the story of how a forgotten plane ticket led to the biggest business takeover of my life. 3 weeks can change everything. When my family left me standing alone at JFK Airport after I'd paid $35,000 for their European vacation, they thought they were teaching me my place. What they actually did was hand me the keys to their empire, they just didn't know it yet. When they returned, tanned and laughing, to launch their $50 million property development, they found me in the VIP section with a mysterious stranger. The moment they publicly declared I wasn't real family and had no inheritance rights in front of 200 guests was the moment they sealed their fate. Because the man holding my hand, he'd just signed the papers to acquire everything they'd built. Before we dive into this story, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy stories about dignity winning over entitlement. I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your city and local time in the comments below. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, let me take you back to that morning at JFK Airport, when I thought I was about to have the family vacation of my dreams. The morning of June 15th started like a dream. I'd been up since 4 a.m., double-checking everyone's passports, organizing the travel documents I'd meticulously prepared over the past 3 months. My Uber to JFK was scheduled for 6 a.m. sharp. I wanted to arrive early to handle check-in for all 5 of us. Sarah, my younger sister, had texted me at midnight asking if I could bring an extra phone charger for her. Of course I did. I always did. Standing in the check-in line at Terminal 4, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, genuine happiness about a family event. For once, we were doing something together that wasn't about money troubles or family drama. I'd made this happen. When Mom Patricia had mentioned wanting to see Rome before she turned 65, I immediately offered to cover the entire trip. $35,000 for business class tickets, 5-star hotels, private tours. Nothing was too much for this chance at creating real family memories. "Julia, you're such a blessing," Patricia had said when I showed her the itinerary. Those words meant everything to me. After 15 years of being the adopted daughter, the outsider who happened to live under the same roof, I finally felt like I belonged. The truth is, this wasn't the first time I'd stepped up financially. Over the past decade, I'd quietly paid off the $200,000 mortgage on the family home when Dad Robert's construction business hit rough times. I'd covered Sarah's $80,000 student loans without being asked. When Patricia needed a new car after her accident, I bought her a Mercedes SUV and pretended it was a leasing deal so she wouldn't feel embarrassed. My CFO salary at Hartman Financial had made all of this possible, but I never kept score. Family doesn't keep receipts, right? At the check-in counter, I handed over all 5 passports to the agent. "The Morrison family," I said proudly. "We're all traveling together." Sarah appeared beside me then, her perfectly styled blonde hair catching the morning light. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Was it amusement? Pity? "Julia, can I talk to you for a second?" she said, pulling me aside while the agent processed our documents. That's when I should have known something was wrong. But I was too happy, too hopeful, too blind to see the storm coming. "Julia, this is so embarrassing," Sarah said, her voice dripping with fake concern. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through something with theatrical confusion. "I don't know how this happened, but I think there's been a mistake with your ticket." My heart skipped. "What do you mean? I booked everything together. I have the confirmation right here." "No, no," she interrupted, her manicured nails tapping the screen. "See, when I was organizing everyone's seats last week, I must have— Oh God, Julia, I'm so sorry. I accidentally canceled your ticket when I was trying to select our meals. The system must have glitched or something." The check-in agent called out, "Next, please." But I couldn't move. The fluorescent lights suddenly felt too bright, the airport noise too loud. Patricia appeared with her Louis Vuitton carry-on, looking between us with practiced surprise. "What's wrong, girls? We need to get through security." "Mom, it's Julia's ticket," Sarah said, her eyes wide with manufactured panic. It's not in the system. I think I accidentally canceled it when I was. Oh dear, Patricia said, but her sympathy felt hollow, like she was reading from a script. Well, can't we just buy another ticket? The agent checked her computer. I'm sorry, ma'am, but this flight is completely sold out, has been for weeks. The next available seat to Rome isn't until Thursday. Thursday. 4 days from now. By then, they'd be halfway through the trip. Julia, you understand, right? Sarah touched my arm, her grip just a little too tight. We can't all miss the flight. The hotels are non-refundable. The tours are booked. You can join us later, maybe? I looked at my family, Patricia avoiding my eyes, my cousin Mark suddenly very interested in his phone, and Sarah with that small, satisfied smile she thought I couldn't see. In that moment, standing in the middle of Terminal 4 with hundreds of travelers streaming around us, I felt more alone than I'd ever been at 8 years old, waiting in that foster care office. Go, I heard myself say. Don't miss your flight. Sarah hugged me quickly, perfunctorily. You're the best, Julia. We'll FaceTime you from the Coliseum. I watched them walk toward security, their laughter echoing back to me. Not one of them turned around. Not once. The Uber ride home was the longest 40 minutes of my life. I sat in the back seat staring at my phone as the Morrison Europe Adventure WhatsApp group lit up with selfies from the departure gate. Sarah posting champagne emojis, Patricia sharing a photo of her business class seat, Mark joking about having extra legroom now, not one message asking if I was okay. That evening, I sat in my empty apartment on the Upper East Side, surrounded by the silence I'd paid $35,000 to escape. My phone buzzed with a memory notification. 1 year ago today, Morrison Family Thanksgiving. I opened it to find a photo Patricia had posted on Facebook. There were 12 people around the dining table, but I wasn't in it. I'd been the one taking the picture, of course. The pattern had always been there, hadn't it? At Sarah's college graduation, I'd been introduced to her friends as a family friend who's been very generous to us. When Grandma Morrison passed away last year, the obituary listed all the grandchildren, except me. It would be confusing to explain, Patricia had said. You understand. I understood perfectly. I was the ATM with a pulse, the safety net with a smile, the wallet they kept in the guest room. My Wharton MBA, which I'd earned while working full-time to support myself, had never been acknowledged. When I made CFO at 35, youngest in the company's history, Patricia had said, "That's nice, dear," and immediately asked if I could cover Sarah's car insurance. Even my birth name had been erased. The Morrisons had legally adopted me when I was 8, after my birth parents died in a car accident. But somehow I was never Morrison enough for the family Christmas card, never Morrison enough for the family trust, never Morrison enough to be remembered at the airport. 3 days into their trip, I'd stopped checking the WhatsApp group. But I hadn't stopped working. Sitting in my office at Hartman Financial, I pulled up the Morrison family property development files. You see, Patricia didn't know that I'd kept copies of everything when I'd helped structure the initial investment 2 years ago. My name might not be on the family trust, but it was on several key documents they'd needed my expertise to create. The Morrison Legacy Tower, a $50 million mixed-use development in Long Island City, was set to launch in 3 weeks. It was Patricia's pride and joy, Sarah's ticket to legitimacy in the business world, and the family's bid for real estate dynasty status. What they didn't realize was that their financing structure had a fatal flaw. One that only someone with my financial expertise would notice. My phone rang. Unknown number. Julia Morrison? The voice was professional, warm. Yes? This is Marcus Wellington. I believe we met briefly at the Hartman conference last year. I'm calling about an investment opportunity that might interest you. Marcus Wellington, CEO of Sterling International Holdings. The man who'd built a real estate empire from nothing and now controlled half of Manhattan's commercial properties. We'd talked for maybe 5 minutes at that conference, but apparently, he'd remembered. I heard through the grapevine that you structured the Morrison Legacy Tower deal, he continued. Brilliant work. I'm particularly interested in that project. Would you be available for coffee tomorrow? I stared at the family photos on my desk, the ones where I was always slightly out of frame, standing just a bit apart from the rest. Mr. Wellington, I'm free all week. My family is in Europe. Without you? There was something in his voice, not pity but understanding. Without me, I confirmed. Their loss, he said simply. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., the St. Regis? If you've ever felt like an outsider in your own family, type "me too" in the comments below. Your stories give me strength, and I read every single one. I see you, those of you watching at 2 a.m. because you can't sleep, wondering if you'll ever be enough for people who should love you unconditionally. Also, where are you watching from? I'm curious to know if family dynamics are similar worldwide. Drop your city below. Let's build our own family right here in these comments. Now let me tell you what happened during those 3 weeks of silence. The meeting with Marcus changed everything, though not in the way you might think. Sitting across from him at the St. Regis, I learned something that made my blood run cold. Julia, I'll be direct, Marcus said, sliding a folder across the table. Your family is about to lose everything. The Morrison Legacy Tower is leveraged against loans they can't possibly repay without the primary investor, who's pulling out next week. I opened the folder. Inside were financial documents, emails, and one name highlighted in yellow: Sarah Morrison, Managing Director. Your sister has been embezzling from the project, Marcus continued. Small amounts at first, but it's accelerated. Nearly 2 million now. The primary investor found out yesterday. They're going public with it at the launch event unless… Unless what? Unless someone with deeper pockets steps in to cover the losses and take over the project. He leaned back, studying me. Someone like Sterling International. My hands trembled as I read Sarah's forged signatures, the fake vendor payments, the shell companies she'd created, all while spending my money on a European vacation. Why are you showing me this? I asked. Because I've watched your work for years, Julia. You're brilliant. You've also been subsidizing people who don't deserve you. I'm offering you a choice. Let them crash and burn alone, or… He paused. Or help me acquire the project legally, cleanly, and you walk away with 30% equity in Sterling International. That's worth more than your family ever dreamed of, yes. I thought about the 5 million of my own money I'd invested in the Morrison Legacy Tower. Money that would evaporate when the scandal broke. Money I'd given them while they called me a charity case behind my back. If I do this, I said slowly, they can never know it was me. Not until… Until the launch event? Marcus smiled. Julia, that's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. You see, I need someone on the inside to ensure all the paperwork is properly signed. Someone they trust. Someone they'd never suspect because they'd never believed I was smart enough to play their game. I'm in, I said. The confrontation came faster than expected. Sarah called me that night, her voice sharp with accusation. Julia, did you talk to Marcus Wellington? My heart raced, but I kept my voice steady. Who? Don't play dumb. Someone saw you at the St. Regis. I have lots of meetings, Sarah. It's my job. This is different. Her breath was ragged. He's been sniffing around our project. If you said anything… Said what? I let a hint of hurt creep into my voice. You didn't even tell me you were back from Europe. I had to find out from Instagram. We got back yesterday. No apology, just fact. Look, we need you at the launch event. Investors want to see family unity. The audacity of it. Abandoning me at the airport, then demanding I play happy family for their benefit. I don't think so, I said quietly. Excuse me? I said no, Sarah. I'm done. You ungrateful… She caught herself. Julia, you owe us. We took you in, we gave you a name. And I gave you 200,000 for the house, 80,000 for your loans, 35,000 for a trip you forgot to invite me on. You offered that money because I thought I was family. You're not… She stopped, but we both heard what she almost said. I'm not what, Sarah? Not real family? Not blood? Silence stretched between us like a chasm. The launch is in 2 weeks, she finally said. If you're not there, don't bother coming to anything else. Ever. Understood. And Julia, that money you mentioned? Consider it rent for 18 years of charity. The line went dead. I sat in my apartment staring at the contract Marcus had sent over. One signature, and I'd own 30% of Sterling International. One signature, and the Morrisons would lose everything. I picked up my pen. Patricia's call came at midnight, as I knew it would. Sarah had sent in the big guns. Julia, sweetheart. Her voice was honeyed poison. Sarah told me about your little tantrum. It wasn't a tantrum, Patricia. You're being dramatic. So we forgot your ticket. It was an honest mistake. Was it? A pause. What are you implying? Nothing. I'm simply done subsidizing a family that sees me as a charity case. How dare you? Patricia, did you know Sarah has been stealing from the Morrison Legacy Project? Dead silence. Then, that's a vicious lie. Is it? Check the books. Vendor payments to companies that don't exist. $2 million, Patricia. Even if that were true, which it's not, that's family business. You're not family. Yes, Sarah made that clear. Julia, you're twisting things. We love you, but you have to understand your place. Robert's gone, and the Morrison legacy belongs to blood. My money wasn't too good for that legacy, though, was it? 5 million of my personal funds are in that project. That was a gift. You can't take back gifts. I'm not taking anything back. I'm just done giving. If you don't show up to the launch, you're out. Permanently. No holidays, no family events, nothing. I understand. And we'll make sure everyone knows why. How you abandoned the family that raised you. I looked at the sterling contracts spread across my desk, Marcus's offer glowing on my laptop screen. Patricia, can I ask you something? What? In all the years I've lived with you, been part of this family, did you ever, even once, actually love me? The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Then quietly, coldly, love doesn't pay bills, Julia. You should know that better than anyone. After she hung up, I signed every document Marcus had sent. Then I blocked every Morrison family member's number. The war was officially on, and they didn't even know it. 2 days before the launch, I met Marcus at his office in the Sterling International building. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park, and somewhere out there, the Morrisons were scrambling to save their empire. The primary investor pulled out this morning, Marcus informed me. Your family has 48 hours to find new funding or the project goes into default. They'll never find 20 million in 2 days. No, but Sterling International can. He slid a new document across his massive oak desk. This is the acquisition agreement. We buy the project at market value, which, given the embezzlement scandal about to break, is significantly reduced. How much? 15 million for a $50 million project. But here's the beautiful part. We announce it at their launch event. I studied the papers. They'll have to sign over everything at the event? Publicly? In front of every major investor in New York. Marcus's eyes gleamed. Unless they want to announce bankruptcy instead. There's one problem. They told me not to come. Oh, you're not coming as Julia Morrison, the cast-off daughter. He smiled. You're coming as my personal guest, my strategic advisor, the woman who helped structure this entire acquisition. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was Sarah from a new phone. Julia, please, we need that 5 million back. Just for a few weeks, I'm begging you. I showed Marcus the message. He laughed. Not cruelly, but with genuine amusement. She's begging for money she claimed was rent? The Morrisons always did have selective memory. What will you tell her? I thought about 8-year-old me, standing in that foster care office, hoping someone would want me. Then I thought about 38-year-old me, who'd learned the difference between being wanted and being used. Nothing, I said. Silence is my answer now. The morning of the launch, I discovered something that changed the game entirely. While reviewing the final acquisition documents, I found a clause I'd written myself 2 years ago, a clause everyone had forgotten about. Hidden in subsection 47B of the original investment structure was my failsafe. If any managing partner was found guilty of fiduciary misconduct, their shares would automatically transfer to the largest individual investor. That investor was me. I called Marcus immediately. I need you to see this. 20 minutes later, he was laughing so hard his assistant came to check on him. Julia, do you realize what this means? That I technically already own Sarah's 40%? Which makes you the majority owner. The acquisition isn't even necessary. You could take over right now. But they don't know that. No, Marcus said slowly, his smile widening. They don't. And if we play this right, they'll sign away their remaining shares thinking they're saving themselves, when really, they're signing it over to me. We spent the next hour crafting the perfect approach. The documents would be presented as Sterling's acquisition, with my name buried in the subsidiary paperwork. Only after everything was signed would we reveal that Sterling's strategic advisor was actually the majority owner. One more thing, Marcus said. I want you to wear something memorable to the launch, something that says power. I have just the dress, the one I bought for Dad Robert's funeral, the one Patricia said was too much for family. Perfect. Oh, and Julia? I'll be introducing you from the stage. Any preference for how? I thought about all the times I'd been introduced as an afterthought, an addendum, a footnote in the Morrison story. Just call me what I am, I said. The woman who owns the Morrison legacy. Have you ever had a moment where everything suddenly clicked into place? That aha moment when you realize you've been holding the winning card all along? Share your story below. I love reading about your victories, big or small. Whether it's standing up to a toxic boss, setting boundaries with family, or just choosing yourself for once, your courage inspires others who are still finding their voice. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself with class and strategy. Now let's get to the main event, the launch that changed everything. The Ritz-Carlton ballroom glittered with Manhattan's elite. 200 of New York's wealthiest investors mingled under crystal chandeliers, champagne flowing, completely unaware they were about to witness the Morrison family's public execution. I arrived 30 minutes after the event started, timing it perfectly. Marcus and I entered through the main doors, just as Patricia was taking the stage for her welcome speech. She saw me immediately. How could she miss me? I wore the black Valentino dress, the one she'd called inappropriate for family events. Tonight, it was perfect. Sarah's face went white. She was standing near the stage in her designer gown, but I could see the panic in her eyes. She whispered urgently to Patricia, who faltered mid-sentence. Ladies and gentlemen, Patricia recovered, her voice slightly strained. Welcome to the Morrison Legacy Tower launch. This project represents everything our family stands for: integrity, tradition, and exclusivity. I almost laughed. Integrity, from the woman who'd just told me love doesn't pay bills. Marcus guided me to the VIP section, front and center. The whispers started immediately. Who was I? Why was I with Marcus Wellington? Patricia's eyes kept darting to us as she spoke about the family's vision, their commitment to excellence, their tight-knit bond. Then she did it. She actually did it. The Morrison family has always been selective about who we allow into our inner circle, Patricia said, looking directly at me. Blood ties and loyalty matter. Not everyone who passes through our lives is truly family. Tonight, we celebrate with those who've earned their place. The crowd murmured approval. Several people glanced at me with curiosity, then dismissal. Just another +1 at a fancy event. Sarah took the microphone next. Before we continue, I want to address something. There's a woman here tonight who has no right to be here. Julia Morrison, though she uses our name, is not a Morrison heir. She's not blood, she's not family. She's someone we charitably raised and who's now trying to insert herself where she doesn't belong. Security guards started moving toward me. The crowd was buzzing with scandal. This was better than any reality show. Marcus stood up slowly, deliberately. Actually, Ms. Morrison, she's with me. The security guards stopped. Everyone in the room knew Marcus Wellington. You didn't touch his guests unless you wanted to be blacklisted from every major deal in the city. Mr. Wellington, Patricia's voice cracked slightly, we weren't expecting you. Clearly, he said, his voice carrying across the silent ballroom, though I'm surprised, given that Sterling International is about to become very involved with the Morrison Legacy Tower. Sarah grabbed the microphone. What are you talking about? Perhaps you should ask your accountants about the $20 million gap in your funding, Marcus said casually, or about the $2 million in vendor payments to non-existent companies. The crowd gasped. Phones appeared, recording everything. Patricia's face went from pale to crimson. That's slander, Sarah shrieked. Julia, you vindictive— Ms. Morrison, Marcus interrupted, his tone ice cold. Julia hasn't said a word. She's simply here as my advisor. Though I'm curious, why would you assume she's involved? The trap was perfect. Sarah had just admitted in front of everyone that she knew about the embezzlement. Security, please escort them out, Patricia demanded, but the security chief looked uncomfortable. Ma'am, Mr. Wellington is a major shareholder in the hotel. We can't— I'm a Morrison, Sarah screamed. This is our event. That woman is nobody. She's a charity case we took in. A leech who— A leech who paid off your family's mortgage, I said, standing up. My voice was calm, carrying in the sudden silence. A leech who covered your student loans, Sarah. Who invested $5 million in this project while you were stealing $2 million from it? You can't prove anything. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the ballroom's AV system, a feature I'd made sure was available when I'd originally booked this venue for them. Suddenly, the giant screens meant to showcase the Morrison Legacy Tower were displaying bank records, forged signatures, shell company documentation. I didn't have to prove it, I said quietly. You already did. Every transaction, every fraud, every lie, it's all here. Patricia swayed on her feet. Turn it off! Turn it off now! But the crowd was transfixed. The Morrison family empire was crumbling in real time, and everyone wanted to witness history. Marcus walked onto the stage with the confidence of a man who owned the world, which, in a way, he did. The crowd parted for him like the Red Sea. Patricia and Sarah stood frozen, trapped between the podium and their public humiliation. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus addressed the room, his voice commanding absolute attention. I apologize for the disruption, but transparency is crucial in business. Sterling International has been monitoring the Morrison Legacy Tower situation for some time. He clicked a remote, and the screens changed to show Sterling International's logo alongside acquisition documents. As of 9 a.m. this morning, Sterling International has acquired all outstanding debts and liens on the Morrison Legacy Tower. Effectively, we now control the project. The room erupted. Investors who'd put money into the project were shouting questions. Patricia grabbed the microphone. You can't do this. We have contracts. Contracts with a morality clause, Marcus interrupted smoothly. Subsection 47B, to be exact. In the event of fiduciary misconduct by any managing partner, their shares automatically transfer to the largest individual investor. He paused, letting that sink in. Would you like to know who that investor is? Sarah's face was corpse white. No, it can't be. Ms. Julia Morrison, Marcus announced, gesturing to me, who personally invested $5 million and holds 31% of the project, combined with the 40% that automatically transferred from Sarah due to the embezzlement. Julia now owns 71% of the Morrison Legacy Tower. The ballroom exploded. Cameras flashed, reporters pushed forward. Patricia collapsed into a chair. But she's not even family, Sarah screamed desperately. Tell them, Mom, tell them she's nobody. Marcus smiled coldly. She's somebody now. In fact, she's your landlord, your employer, and the owner of everything you thought was yours. He turned to me. Ms. Morrison, would you like to address your new investors? I walked onto that stage with 15 years of rejection fueling each step. The microphone felt like justice in my hands. "Good evening," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "I know many of you are confused, so let me clarify. Yes, I was adopted by the Morrison family. Yes, they raised me. But I paid for that privilege many times over, financially and emotionally." I looked directly at Patricia and Sarah. "You taught me that love doesn't pay bills. You were right. But respect does. Integrity does. And those are currencies you never had." The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. "Effective immediately, Sarah Morrison is terminated from any role in this project. Patricia Morrison's consulting contract is void. All Morrison family members are banned from the property." "You can't do this," Patricia found her voice. "Robert would be spinning in his grave." "Actually," I said quietly, "Dad Robert would be proud. He's the one who taught me to always have a backup plan. Subsection 47B? He helped me write it." The revelation about Robert hit Patricia like a physical blow. She staggered, gripping the podium for support. "You're lying," she whispered. "Robert wouldn't protect the daughter he actually loved?" I pulled out a letter from my purse, Robert's handwriting clearly visible. "Should I read what he wrote before he died? About how he knew you and Sarah were planning to cut me out? How he made sure I'd be protected?" Marcus took the microphone back. "There's more. Ms. Morrison isn't just the majority owner of this project. She's also Sterling International's newest partner, with 30% equity in our entire portfolio." The math was staggering, and everyone in that room could calculate it. Sterling International was worth billions. 30% made me one of the wealthiest women in New York. "That's impossible," Sarah said weakly. "She's nobody. She's just an accountant." "The youngest CFO in Hartman Financial's history," Marcus corrected. "A Wharton MBA graduate with honors. A financial genius who structured your entire project. The same project you were too incompetent to manage without stealing from." A reporter pushed forward. "Ms. Morrison, Forbes will want an exclusive. Wall Street Journal has questions about the acquisition. Bloomberg needs a statement." But I only had eyes for my so-called family. Patricia was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Sarah stood frozen, her grand moment of triumph turned to ash. "The saddest part," I said into the microphone, "is that I would have given you everything, freely, lovingly, forever. All you had to do was actually make me family, not on paper, in your hearts." I pulled out the acquisition documents, already signed and notarized. "But you chose cruelty. You chose greed. So now you get to live with those choices." "Please," Patricia suddenly begged. "Julia, please. We're sorry. We're family." "No," I said firmly. "We're not. You made that very clear at JFK Airport. You made it clear for 15 years. I'm done begging for scraps of affection from people who only see my value in dollar signs." Security approached Sarah with a box, her personal items from the office, already packed. "You planned this," she accused. "You've been planning this all along." "No, Sarah. You planned this when you canceled my ticket. When you smiled at the airport and left me behind. When you thought I was too weak, too desperate for belonging to ever fight back." I stepped closer to the microphone for my final words to them. "You were wrong." The paperwork was swift and brutal. Marcus's legal team had everything prepared: termination letters, eviction notices, cease and desist orders, all perfectly legal, all devastatingly final. "Sign here," Marcus's lawyer instructed Patricia, pointing to the transfer documents. "This formally acknowledges the change in ownership." "What if we don't sign?" Sarah tried one last desperate play. "Then we file criminal charges for embezzlement," the lawyer said simply. $2 million is grand larceny. That's 15 years in prison." Patricia's hand shook as she signed. Sarah followed, tears streaming down her face. With each signature, they signed away their empire, their future, their pride. "The penthouse," I said to Patricia. "You have 30 days to vacate. That's generous. Legally, I could demand immediate evacuation. Where will we go? Patricia's voice was small, broken. I suggest you use some of that European vacation money to find a new place, I replied. Oh, wait. That was my money too, wasn't it? The crowd was eating this up. Every phone was recording, every reporter was typing. The Morrison family scandal would be front-page news tomorrow. Marcus handed me a champagne glass. A toast, he announced to the room. To Julia Morrison, who proves that family isn't about blood, it's about character. The room erupted in applause. People who'd ignored me at every Morrison event were suddenly eager to shake my hand, to congratulate me, to connect with the woman who'd just pulled off the business coup of the year. But I wasn't done. One more thing, I announced. The $5 million I invested in this project? It's being donated to the Foster Children's Education Fund. Every penny will go toward giving abandoned children the chances they deserve. More applause. In the corner, I saw Patricia sink into a chair, finally understanding the full scope of her loss. It wasn't just money or property. It was legacy, reputation, everything. Sarah tried one more time. Julia, please, we're sisters. No, I said firmly. Sisters don't leave each other at airports. Sisters don't steal from each other. Sisters don't spend 15 years reminding each other they're not real family. I turned to Marcus. I think we're done here. As we walked toward the exit, the crowd parted respectfully. Behind us, the Morrisons stood alone in their ruined kingdom, surrounded by the debris of their own cruelty. At the exit, Patricia made one last desperate attempt. She grabbed my arm, her nails digging in, the same way she used to when I was a child and had embarrassed her somehow. You ungrateful little... Remove your hand, I said calmly, or I'll add assault to the charges. She let go immediately. The security guards moved closer, ready to intervene. I gave you everything, she hissed. A home, a name, a family. You gave me a roof in exchange for hundreds of thousands of dollars. You gave me a name you never let me truly carry. You gave me a family that reminded me daily I didn't belong. Sarah joined her mother, mascara streaking her cheeks. What do you want? An apology? Fine, I'm sorry. I don't want anything from you. That's what you never understood. I wanted to give, to love, to belong. But you turned me into a transaction. I pulled out my phone and showed them one final document. This is a restraining order. Come within 500 feet of me, my properties, or my business, and you'll be arrested. All communication goes through lawyers now. After everything we did for you? Patricia's voice cracked. Let me itemize what I did for you, I said, loud enough for the lingering reporters to hear. 200,000 for the mortgage, 80,000 for Sarah's loans, 35,000 for the Europe trip, 50,000 for Patricia's car, 5 million for this project, medical bills, insurance, credit cards. Should I continue? The numbers hung in the air like an indictment. That's $5.4 million over 15 years, I continued. Divide that by the time I lived with you, and I paid you $25,000 per month for the privilege of being your charity case. So tell me, who was really the charitable one? Marcus stepped forward. The car is waiting, Julia. As we walked away, I heard Patricia's final words. You'll regret this. Family is forever. I turned back one last time. No, Patricia. Family is a choice, and you chose wrong. The doors closed behind us with a definitive click. Outside, the Manhattan night sparkled with possibility. Marcus's Bentley waited at the curb, but I stopped for a moment, breathing in the cool air of freedom. No regrets? Marcus asked. None, I said, and meant it. The aftermath was swift and merciless. By morning, the story was everywhere. Adopted daughter's revenge, the Morrison empire falls. From charity case to CEO, Julia Morrison's stunning reversal. Family betrayal costs Morrisons everything. Sarah's embezzlement made the financial crime sections. The FBI opened an investigation. Her assets were frozen within 48 hours. 3 firms that had offered her positions quietly withdrew their offers. She was radioactive in the industry, untouchable, unemployable, finished. Patricia fared no better. The charity boards she'd sat on for decades demanded her immediate resignation. The country club revoked her membership after other members complained they couldn't associate with someone of such poor character. The society women who'd lunched with her for years suddenly didn't return her calls. Their family friends, the ones who'd watched them leave me at the airport and said nothing, now distanced themselves completely. Bad for business, they said. Can't be associated with scandal. Mark, my cousin who'd been silent through everything, tried to reach out. Julia, I had no idea they were treating you like that. If I'd known, you knew. I cut him off. You all knew. You just didn't care until it cost you something. The Morrison Legacy Tower was renamed Sterling Plaza. I had Patricia's portrait removed from the lobby and replaced it with a photo of foster children at graduation, kids who'd made it despite everything, like me. Within a month, Patricia and Sarah were living in a two-bedroom apartment in Queens, their luxury cars repossessed, their credit cards canceled. The European vacation photos they'd posted so proudly on Instagram now seemed like artifacts from another lifetime. The best part? The inheritance they'd been so desperate to keep from me, Robert's estate that they thought was worth millions, turned out to be mostly debt. Debt that I'd been unknowingly paying off for years. Without my money propping them up, the Morrison name meant nothing. They'd lost more than money or property. They'd lost their identity, their status, everything they'd used to make themselves feel superior to me. The media attention was relentless but useful. I gave exactly 3 interviews: Forbes, Wall Street Journal, and surprisingly, a foster care advocacy podcast that reached millions of survivors like me. What would you say to foster children who feel like they'll never belong? The podcast host asked. You belong to yourself first, I answered. No one else gets to define your worth. That episode went viral. Messages poured in from adoptees, foster kids, anyone who'd ever been made to feel like an outsider in their own family. Their stories broke my heart and strengthened my resolve. Meanwhile, Sarah's legal troubles multiplied. The FBI investigation uncovered more fraud. She'd been stealing long before I'd discovered it. Investors filed civil suits. Criminal charges were formally pressed. Her lawyer, the same one who'd helped her try to cut me out of everything, dropped her as a client when she couldn't pay his retainer. Patricia tried to write a tell-all book about raising an ungrateful adopted child. No publisher would touch it. She started a GoFundMe claiming I'd stolen her family's legacy. It raised $342 before being shut down for fraud. Marcus and I had dinner one evening at the Four Seasons. Any regrets now? He asked, echoing his question from the launch night. One, I admitted. I regret waiting so long to see my own worth. Robert would be proud, he said quietly. I knew him, before he got sick. He talked about you constantly, his brilliant daughter who was too good for the rest of them. He never said that to me. He wrote it, though. Marcus pulled out an envelope. He gave this to me 2 years ago, told me to give it to you when you finally broke free. Inside was a letter in Robert's shaky handwriting. My dearest Julia, if you're reading this, you finally learned what I always knew. You were never the charity case. They were. Love, Dad. I cried for the first time since the airport. Not from sadness, but from validation I'd never thought I'd receive. 6 months later, Sterling Plaza was thriving beyond all projections. I'd restructured the entire project, bringing in minority-owned businesses as tenants, creating affordable housing units alongside the luxury condos. It was everything the Morrisons had been too greedy to envision. The Foster Children's Education Fund had distributed over $2 million in scholarships. I personally mentored 5 young women who'd aged out of foster care, helping them navigate college and career paths. They called me their chosen family, and that meant more than any Morrison blood tie ever could. Sarah was sentenced to 5 years in prison, reduced to 3 with good behavior. Patricia visited her once a week, taking 3 buses from Queens to the correctional facility. The woman who'd once refused to be seen in anything less than a Mercedes now waited at bus stops in the rain. One day, I received a letter from Sarah. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Julia, I know you'll probably throw this away, but I need you to know something. We were wrong. I was wrong. Not just about the money or the trip, but about everything. You were the only real thing in our fake family. The only one who actually loved us. And we threw it away for nothing. I'm sorry. I know it's too late. But I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Some bridges once burned should stay ash. Marcus and I became business partners in 3 more ventures. The financial media called us the power duo reshaping New York real estate. But more importantly, we became real friends, the kind who showed up, who stayed, who saw each other's worth beyond dollar signs. The Morrison name, once synonymous with old money prestige, became a cautionary tale in business schools about how greed and cruelty can destroy even the strongest foundations. Today, 3 years after that night at JFK Airport, I stand in my office at Sterling International, looking out at the city I've helped reshape. The Morrison Legacy Tower, now Sterling Plaza, gleams in the distance, a monument not to revenge, but to resilience. I've learned 3 crucial lessons about setting boundaries. First, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. The Morrisons showed me for 15 years that I was only valuable for my money. I just refused to see it. Second, you can't buy your way into belonging. All the money I spent trying to earn their love only taught them I was willing to pay for crumbs of affection. Third, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's success that has nothing to do with them. I didn't destroy the Morrisons out of spite. I simply stopped propping them up and let gravity do its work. Patricia still lives in Queens. Sarah got out last month and works at a call center. They're surviving, which is more than they ever let me do. They forced me to thrive. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if they'd just bought me that plane ticket, if they'd included me in that family vacation I'd paid for. Would I have kept subsidizing their lifestyle forever? Would I have ever discovered my own worth? In a strange way, leaving me at that airport was the greatest gift they ever gave me. It set me free. If you're watching this and you're someone's charity case, their afterthought, their ATM, know this: your worth isn't determined by their acceptance. Family isn't about blood or obligation or guilt. It's about choosing each other, again and again, especially when it's hard. The Morrisons never chose me, so I chose myself. And that made all the difference. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more content about standing strong in the face of family betrayal. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to choose yourself. Comment below. Have you ever had to cut ties with toxic family members? How did you find the strength? Your stories inspire me and others who are struggling. Remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Blood doesn't make family, love, respect, and choice do. Until next time, this is Julia, reminding you that you're worth more than you know.